In last week's episode of Star Trek Strange New Worlds, Lon Noonien Singh found herself in a contaminated timeline aboard an Enterprise that she felt was quite alien to her because it was commanded by Captain Kirk, an alternate reality version of Captain Kirk nonetheless. They spent the entire hour-long episode together trying to figure out how to repair the Prime timeline, and the big twist is that at the end of the episode, they found out that they needed to safeguard the life of none other than Lon's really crazy, murderous ancestor, Khan Noonien Singh. An hour-long worth of Trek in today's Star Trek climate is very special. The episode was also very good, and we got to see Captain Kirk driving a Hellcat, so all around, huge Fortnite dub. Today we're going to Rigel VII, and Rigel VII plays a huge part in the original Star Trek pilot, The Cage. It is the first time we hear about any type of adventure any Starfleet captain has ever gone on, and it pretty much ends in disaster for Captain Pike. Today's episode is called Among the Lotus Eaters. Let's get right into it.
What's been on your mind, Chris? The fight on Rigel VII?
I should have smelled trouble when I saw the swords and the armor. Instead of that, I let myself get trapped in that deserted fortress and attacked by one of their warriors.
Season 2, Episode 4, Among the Lotus Eaters. Now, this episode title is a reference to the Greek epic poem, The Odyssey. In that epic, there is a dude named Odysseus, and he's trying to get his men through this great adventure, and there's a point in the adventure where they come aboard this island, and they consume these lotus flowers, or these fruits called the lotus flowers. Basically become obsessed with just staying on the island, not continuing their adventure. I didn't read that poem. I think there was a summarized version in the back of our textbooks that we studied in middle school, but most of my Greek mythos I only know from Percy Jackson. There's a part in the book, and then also seen in the terrible live-action movie, where they go into this grand casino in Vegas that is actually based off the lotus flower myth, and they have a very hard time leaving the casino and continuing on their journey because they're being entranced by the flowers offered there as well. And I'm pretty sure they had a Lotus sports car in the movie, and that's like the only sports car I've ever liked. I'm not a huge car guy, but the Lotus sports car is pretty cool. I've always wanted to get a green one and call it the Primary Lotus after Rock Lee's signature move from Naruto. The return to Rigel VII. The description for today's episode actually says returning to a planet that dredges up tragic memories, and this is going to be my first gripe with today's episode. When we first heard about Strange New Worlds, I was honestly very excited at first with how much they were going to utilize the small amount of lore that we have for Captain Pike and what we know of him as a person, what we know from The Cage and the two-parter The Menagerie. In The Cage, it was a huge part of his character that he was actually a person who extremely troubled with the burdens of command. The Rigel VII incident where he lost 3 of his crew members actually left him shook to the point where he was considering resigning his commission altogether and just going home, like legitimately packing his bags, retiring, and just returning to go and ride horses. And throughout The Cage, as he was kind of being put in captivity by the Telosians and being put through these mind games, he was often brought back to Rigel VII and then also back to the plains of his hometown with the horses. All I'm saying is that this is a pretty huge integral part of Captain Pike's life. Now, this is all post-Talos, as we know. Star Trek Discovery has kind of revealed that this is all post-Talos incident. This is definitely post all those events. I'm a little bit underwhelmed with how easy it is for Captain Pike to come back to Rigel VII. In all honesty, I would have thought that this is something that causes a lot of emotional strife for him. If you go back and watch The Cage, it was a huge deal. What happened on Rigel VII and the fight between him and the Kalar in that original episode was gruesome. I do have to give them gold stars. The Kalar looked amazing in today's episode. They looked huge, big, grizzly motherfuckers. For real, I thought they did a great job of bringing the Kalar to life, because if you go back and watch The Cage, Captain Pike was basically fighting what seemed like a giant Neanderthal. So great job to the makeup department for bringing like the warrior class Kalar to life. Rigel VII also looked really cool. If you compare this picture of Rigel VII to like the Rigel VII that appeared in today's episode, the only criticism that I can make is that they need to up the saturation a little bit. It needs to be way more pink, a little bit more vibrant. But other than that, the castle recreation, it just kind of being right next to that enlarged moon that you could see in the very misty, mountainous area of Rigel VII. A great recreation of the planet from the original series. Looks very good. We really get to go down to the surface. We get to learn about the Kalar. We get to learn about their caste system, about how there are Kalar who live in the palace, and then there are the Kalar who toil the fields. And that's where the episode's title comes in. The Kalar who toil the fields forget about their entire existence every night. It is something that they refer to as the forgetting, and it has almost become a spiritual, religious culture at this point. They engrave the story of the Kalar in their history on this large totem. Anybody who is not inside Castle on Rigel VII is susceptible to lose their memories because the meteorites and asteroids that surround Rigel VII contain radioactive material that gets into your brain and just inhibits your parietal lobe and makes you forget who you are, everything about yourself, except basically your inner essence. This is where my second criticism comes in. The Luck character, the individual who was there to guide Lon, Pike, and Mbenga on this spiritual journey of becoming field Kalar and, you know, experiencing the forgetting every night and just not knowing who they are. He was pretty cool, except at the midpoint of the episode when they're going to storm the castle and it attempts to get back their memories, he has this preachy moment where he's like, okay, don't open the box of memories and give me my memories back. I don't want them. I like living in this ignorant state where I don't know my past anymore, and it's just a lot easier for me to forget it and just live in this state of limbo. And that is where the episode title comes in, Among the Lotus Eaters, because the field Kalar at this point are like the Lotus Eaters. They've adopted the fact that they're forgetting who they are every night, and they've turned it into this spiritual religion, and it's almost easier for them to just kind of buy into it and be in an ignorance is bliss situation. They're much more comfortable eating the lotus flower and staying on the island than having Odysseus drag them away, continue on their journey. So I actually really do like that they're making a huge parallel to the Greek epic poem. I guess I just didn't really like how preachy Luck was being in the middle part of the episode with how he didn't want to experience his memories. The dialogue and the way that he was delivering it was just bad. That's my criticism. And I really do like getting preached at, you know, but I just want my Star Trek messages to come conveniently at the end of the episode after everything is said and done. Which I will give them credit. After Luck got his memories back, he came back and admitted that he was wrong the whole time and that he was biting the lotus flower when he really should have just retained his memories and remembered his family at the end. Really fulfilling and worthwhile. Also, if you guys want me to discuss anything that's going on with Captain Batel other than the fact that she was looking really mad fine in this episode, I'm not going to do that. That was pretty much filler. I don't care what's going on with Captain Batel. Captain Pike is not destined to really have a long-term relationship with Captain Batel. He's destined to blow up in a fire and be reduced to a chair, become a vegetable, live in a perpetual trance with Vina later. So I don't really think I care that much about Captain Batel, other than it's lovely to see a beautiful female captain of this era just be really confident and sexy on screen. That is really cool, and I love that aspect of Captain Batel, but I don't really think there's much to discuss. They were having issues. They got over their issues. That's soap opera drama stuff. I don't really think that's overly adding too much to the episode, just kind of adding some scenes in there. There is a very bad sound issue at about 43 minutes. I don't know how long it's going to take them to get the is fixed, but there is a scene where Captain Pike is taking cover behind a pillar because the Kalar are shooting at him with the phaser rifles that they have acquired from Yeoman Zach, and there's just 2 shots that hit the pillar right next to Captain Pike, and you cannot hear the sound at all. I rewound it like 3 times to see if I was tripping or if my internet was lagging, but no, it's just a legitimate audio defect that is a part of the episode, so go back to 43 minutes and see if you can hear that for me. Really enjoyed every aspect about Ortega's in today's episode. The scene where she was just asserting her ego back into herself. I am Ortega's, I fly the ship. Really funny interaction between her and Spock was great. Her realizing that she's the only one on the entire ship that can actually save them from this situation is also entertaining. When she's delirious and very confused because she doesn't know where she is or who she is, she wants to go home, so she asks the computer to take her home. The computer interprets this by taking her to her quarters. The computer also does this by making the lights in the hallway flicker and light up, steering her in the direction of where she lives. And this is a big deal to me because this honestly was a big deal at the beginning of Star Trek: The Next Generation. It was kind of highlighted as more of a next generation 24th century feature, and it almost seems like a little bit of a mess up to have it on the Constitution class Enterprise. The highlight of the episode also for me was Yeoman Zach. The fact that they took this very dark, terrible situation from the TOS, the Rigel VII incident, and they flipped the script and kind of made it funny, with Yeoman Zach being alive, actually rising to the rank of like head of the Kalar, and he is manipulating them and becoming king, and he sends his old captain to work out in the fields with the other Kalar to toil with them. That is absolutely hilarious. And the ending fight with Captain Pike going to beat up Zach, the scene where he goes and storms the castle with a phaser rifle and he uses the metal dish as a shield, is so cool. It's like an anime moment. The Chad Pike versus the Virgin Zachariah, King Zachariah. Amazing scene. Way more entertaining watching them beat up the Kalar than really to listen to Lux ramblings. With all that being said, today's episode gets a strong 7 out of 10. It's not getting any higher than that because it goes back to my original criticism. I just don't think that they did Rigel VII true justice because Captain Pike was not emotionally affected by returning. The ending speech with him talking to Zach, it was just amazing when he finally had Zach on the ground defeated and he almost killed him. He delivered this beautiful, amazing speech to him, and Zach was honestly ready to return home and face judgment at that point, and that saved the episode for me. You guys really should have Captain Pike shook to return to this place. If you watch and go back and watch the K discussion with Dr. Boyce, is one of the most emotional scenes you ever see Captain Pike do. To be fair, there isn't that much Captain Pike content in the TOS, which goes even further to show that I really feel like Captain Pike should have been shook up and really way more emotionally concerned with returning to Rigel VII and more emotionally concerned with that rather than what was going on with Captain Batel. You guys think that they recreated Rigel VII well in today's episode? Do you think visually they did a good job? Story-wise, did you enjoy the whole caste system and the lore of the Kalar as much as I did? And do you think that they're doing this caged lore justice? Please leave it down in the comments below. I really would love to hear what you think. Comments are my favorite thing about the platform. The more you leave, the happier I am. If you enjoyed today's video, or if you're enjoying any of the content on the channel, I'd be very flattered if you were to subscribe. Please slap a like on the video if you enjoyed it. Hope you guys are having a good rest of your week. And with all that being said, live long and prosper.